Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith. This evening, we warmly welcome the family of Private John Timothy Hurley, whose story will be told shortly by Lieutenant Colonel Timothy Hurley from the Australian Army, who is a member of Private Hurley's family. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private John Timothy Hurley. John Hurley was born on the 19th September 1894 in the Gippsland town of Seaton, Victoria. Known as Tim, he was one of 13 children born to my great-great-grandfather and grazier, Thomas Hurley, and his wife Margaret. At the outbreak of the First World War, he was working as a labourer in his local district. John Hurley enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 15th of July 1915. He was assigned to reinforcements of the 23rd Battalion and began a short period of training in Australia. He embarked for active service in February 1916, sailing from Melbourne on board the troop ship Warrialda. After several weeks at sea, Private Hurley arrived in Egypt, where he joined other new recruits waiting to join their units. He remained in Alexandria until late March 1916, when he embarked for the Western Front. He joined the ranks of the 23rd Battalion in late April 1916, earning the nickname Jim, a combination of his first and middle names. Over the weeks that followed, Private Hurley and his comrades spent time training, working on construction tasks, and manning the trenches along the Franco-Belgian border. His introduction to life on the front was a relatively quiet one, as his unit was predominantly stationed away from the action. This changed in July 1916, however, when his unit was sent south to attack German positions around the French village of Pozières. Private Hurley's unit entered the support trenches on the 24th of July, and within 4 days were readying to attack. Coming under heavy shell fire, much of the region had been razed to the ground, making the battlefields of Pozières a veritable hell for the men who fought there. Private Herbert Harris, who was caught in the fighting, described the conditions. Imagine men dug in a few feet into the ground, shells falling just like rain, trenches blown up and men digging for dear life to rebuild them or rescuing their comrades who were buried, and in most cases, the rescuers were also buried by shells. When entering the trenches, we were bombarded with tear and gas shells, which made us wear our gas helmets. It is almost impossible to see and hard to breathe. I've heard officers and men say that the landing and the Lone Pine battle at Gallipoli were a picnic compared to this fight. John Hurley's first stint in the front line lasted 3 days, during which time his unit suffered some 300 casualties before being relieved. The 23rd Battalion spent a few days in reserve at Sausage Valley before being drawn back into the front lines on the 2nd of August 1916. 2 days later, Private Hurley's unit received orders to attack 2 lines of German trenches northeast of the ruined village. Again, advancing under heavy machine gun and artillery fire, casualties mounted as the men pressed forward. They reached the first line of enemy trenches and attempted to dig in for cover, but were left open to enemy fire when their picks were unable to break through the ground. Having suffered enormous losses and unable to breach the enemy's second line, the men were called to withdraw before daybreak. Within a few weeks of fighting around Pozières and Moquet Farm, the 23rd Battalion lost some 90% of its original fighting strength. Among the dead was John Hurley, killed during the attack on the 4th of August 1916. One of his comrades, Private Egan, described the last time he saw John. He was one of a party, along with me, carrying ammunition to a newly captured position when he got wounded and was put under a little cover by one of the party until we came back. But on returning, there were no signs of him. There was a heavy barrage of fire on all the time, and my opinion is that another shell blew him to pieces. Private Hurley was never seen again. Today, he is commemorated at the Australian National Memorial at Villers-Bretonneux, along with more than 10,000 others who have no known grave. His friends in Seaton later paid tribute to him in a memorial notice placed in the Melbourne Argus. In peace, a friend. In war, a hero. At all times, a man. John Hurley was 22 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. His is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private John Timothy Hurley, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.